What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I'm your hostess, doing the mostest, Kivanshi, and y'all, we got the hat back. Had to bring the hat back for this video. So y'all already know, we are 60 days out from the Vampire Lestat, and some promo was just dropped today, April 9th. They've been dropping like little behind the scenes interviews, little snippets and things like that. And you know, we're never gonna stop talking about these characters. It's been 2 years. We have not been fed. And so I feel like as a fandom, we've just kind of like, you know, when like the body is hungry and starving and then it just starts feeding on itself. That's basically what's been going on within the fandom. But you know, one thing that I've really been thinking about over the last couple of weeks is just like, do I still feel the same way that I did when I first watched the show? And I see a lot of tweets that's like, oh, what I would give to experience this episode for the first time again, or experience this moment for the first time again. And the way that my brain works, I can watch something and have such a visceral emotional reaction, good or bad, but it's just like, it just feels real to me. And then I'll have like so many strong opinions, and then I'll watch it again and have completely new set of feelings about the same thing that I saw before. And it's a blessing and a curse, because I feel like it can be contradictory sometimes, because you learn, you grow, you get new information, you get older, you start to look at things through a different lens, and you can either develop more grace or you could lose grace. Same thing with empathy and just understanding and compassion in general. So I don't know what really sparked this, but I ended up going back and I was looking at my very first like full series review on Interview with the Vampire, and I watched it, just a little bit of a catharsis, you know, kind of seeing like how I've grown since. But I genuinely was like, do I feel the same? Especially because my feelings around Armand are evolving. It's still like on Cypher Armand, like literally I would fight Armand, but I'm more at the point where like I would fight Armand and then like we're gonna go and eat like 8 people together and then hang out and play video games. Like that's the type of the relationship that I'm developing with him. And I've since read the Vampire Lestat book since I did that first review. And the way that I do analysis is a lot different, just me being on this platform and just growing as a creator, growing as a filmmaker, and just, you know, publishing articles, all these different things. So I'm like, okay, what was I saying? Was I making sense? And do I still feel the same way? So I'll link that video in the description box. It's 58 minutes of, to me, I felt like, I don't know that I was saying much. It was a couple of gems in there, but I'm not gonna be too self-critical. But I pulled out 6 main points and we're gonna discuss those. And it's basically gonna be like, you know, here's the thing that I said, or this was a thought that I had. Do I feel this way today? So the video opened up and the first thing I said was, I feel empty and full at the same time. And honestly, that's where I'm at. I feel empty because we haven't had them in 2 years. But I feel so full because there's so many talented writers in the fandom and just talented artists, graphic designers, people who just make like book covers and all of these different things. Like so many people are creative within this fandom. And like the people who read the books, they've been so kind and really helping me just kind of like understand and fill in some gaps, especially for books or certain backstories that I haven't read yet. Special shout out to, I think it's T Mackie 1018 on Twitter. Special shout out because you be getting me riled up but I love it so much. Like, it's never anything negative. And then just all the different comments and interactions on YouTube, on my articles, all of that, like, that has really been like filling the void. But like in those quiet moments, it's just like, where's Lestat? Where's Louis? And I just feel like, I just feel like I'm being ripped apart every second that we don't have them. And so, yeah, when I made that video, I had just finished season 2. And it's been 2 years. And I just like, I can't believe that it's been 2 years. Obviously we had the con, San Diego and New York in between, and I had some incredible interactions with Sam and Jacob, and just in the crowd. But still, I'm just like, it's not enough. I need this season to hurry up and come through. So do I feel the same? Yes, I feel both of those things at the same time. Now, one thing or another thing that I talked about in this video was Louis' relationship to intimacy, his relationship with himself, and his relationship to humanity. So this was kind of brought up and centering around just my personal love about my love for intimacy, my love for foreplay, and really like just getting the mind in a space to receive affection outside of physical interactions or penetration. And I think in that video I was just saying, like, the way that he views those 3 things definitely come up and manifest in very like jagged like representations of himself. And here we are in 2026. I would say that I think back then I didn't really know how to expound upon that thought, but just kind of sitting with the material, rewatching it over and over again, and you really got to rewatch it because this Louis is not the one in the book, so I don't have anything that anchors what we know in Jacob Anderson's portrayal to what we've like seen. And so we only have that as a source. And with the teasers and everything, I still feel like in The Vampire Lestat, Louis' relationship to intimacy and expressing it and being soft, and especially with the teaser today when they asked him, you know, describe Lestat in 1 word, and he says vain, but he's clearly lying. It's like Louis, I think, still won't allow himself any type of softness. And I want to have faith that he will be vulnerable enough to display that softness behind closed doors with Lestat. But babes, I don't think that that's going to be true. I really feel like Louis is still going to be in the mindset of like, he should know, he should know, he should know. But Lestat is a words of affirmations girly, okay? He is an acts of service girly. Like, you're going to have to tell him, and then you're going to have to like do the things for him. And because Louis still has so much to deal with his sexuality within himself and how he presents himself to the world, I just feel like he's going to be incapable of giving Lestat what Lestat craves from him. And this is gonna spiral into potentially Lestat believing that he won't get it from him, and goes into a type of resolve, you know, it's drug fueled, you know, he's going to be going into his own life questioning, you know, how did he get here, you know, is he the sum of all of his decisions? But I feel like it's going to lead down a path where Lestat will have to figure out who Lestat is without love, or what he perceives as love. And I think it's going to be a reaction to how Louis perceives intimacy and vulnerability and what it looks like between two men, but more importantly within himself as a black man. And so then his relationship to the self, I feel like the way he presents, I think Louis is still sitting in the whole, I gotta look masculine. I have to uphold these like gender norms and ideas of what it means to be the man in the relationship. And when you really explore the dynamic that he had with Armand, that was the dynamic that was told to us through this interview. Even though we saw him with that gay ass scarf around his neck and his damn titties dang near showing in these little shirts, it's just like, sir, nobody's mistaking you for straight, but how he sees himself is how he's going to portray these things. And I feel like his sexuality is at war with his wardrobe, and it's ignorant, but I feel like Louis lives in the ignorant of just like how I look, how I dress will determine if people see me as a man. Never mind that you're a vampire, you could literally kill anybody and read their minds and just be like, okay, whatever, I don't like what you said, like, eat them and keep it moving. But he's still also trying to pretend to like have like some human decency and respect for humanity, even though we know he doesn't. And so it's just like all jumbled up. And so while this season is going to be around Lestat, I feel like Lestat is going to be responding to a Louis that is in a new type of inner turmoil. And the turmoil that he experienced with his family before Lestat is going to be the same thing that he's experiencing now, but it's more complicated because he now also has to go through what memories are real, what memories are false. And he won't have the time to give Lestat him because he has to learn who he is. So yeah, I definitely think they're gonna drag this out and they're gonna edge us to fucking oblivion with all of this. I am ecstatic, but I'm dreading it, and I just know I'm gonna be crying every week. Like I just feel it already. It is what it is. I'm accepting it. It's a thing. The next thing that I was talking about was perfect casting. Boom, perfect casting. Top tier. There's been people disagreeing with me or giving their opinions about Armand, and you know, a lot of it is like, I want book Armand. And you know, I've been looking at the different descriptions of Armand when it comes to his hair, when it comes to his demeanor, when it comes to all these things. And I'm like, Assad is simply brown and older. But when you look at his physique and his appearance and the descriptions of him, he fits this thing. And so I just wonder, you know, do you have a problem because he's brown? Because that's what it's seeming like. Because you can't want the underage boy as Armand and expect grown people to engage in sexual activity on TV or any type of sexual simulation, even if it's acting. You can't want that. That wouldn't even be a thing. And with the way that the story was aged up, with Louis turning, with Lestat's turning, it was inevitable that everybody else was going to be aged, to include Daniel Malloy. So it just kind of makes me wonder what goes in people's brains when they say they want book Armand, because there's no other character that they say that with, and the other characters aside from Claudia are legal adults. So I just be like, just be careful how you defend that, because if we're talking about the essence of that character, that's Armand. Like, we've seen Queen of the Dam. When I tell you, I rewatched Queen of the Dam. Y'all already know, if you didn't see the video, I'll link that below. I did. It was the first time I dressed up as Akasha, and I did a Queen of the Dam review in character as Akasha in like first person format. But when I watched the movie, I was like, that's Armand. That's Louis. Like, nobody else is memorable. Nobody is memorable in that movie except Akasha, obviously Lestat, Marius, and Macaire and Maharet. That's it, right? So yeah, I am just like, okay, girl, go read the book then if you want that one. But yeah, perfect casting. Even with Claudia, with Bailey Bass and Delaney Hales. I'm doing a separate video about that because I have lots to say. But know that those were both phenomenal and perfect castings. And yeah, Roland in the casting department and Hannah, they know what the fuck they're doing. So, you know, there's that. Next. Now this one, I said it then, I believe it now. Interview with the Vampire Lestat is the sexiest show on TV. And not just sexy in just like, you know, hot vampires, but the writing is sexy. Like, the writing is something that pulls you in and puts you under a spell, and you're in love with the language and the cadence and the pattern and the poetry. You're in love with the anger, you're in love with the angst, you're in love with the longing, you're in love with the jokes, and it's just like, it just falls over you as these words are coming out of these actors' mouths. And it blankets you in something that is so mature and so like foundational. And I just feel like after, like, if you're of a certain age, you won't really get it. What makes shows sexy to a specific age group is just like hotness. Do they find the characters attractive? And do they want the characters to just like hump meaninglessly, right? The Vampire Lestat and Interview with the Vampire, they layer sexuality, they layer intimacy, they layer relationships the way that they are in real life. Like, there are some instances where, you know, real life is, you know, you meet somebody at a club, you tugging them down, you go home, you having a one night stand, you're in a group chat about it, or you meet up with your homegirls and your homeboys and you talking about it, right? That exists. That is a reality. Interview with the Vampire lives in a different space of reality outside of that demographic and that age group. And so the foundation that they set with it being sexy is rooted in timelessness. It's not just based on looks. Looks fade, beauty fades. Like, you know, you're going to get to a point in your life where your penis doesn't get hard. Your coochie don't get wet. Like, your titties is going to be sagging. Your skin is going to be weighed down. You're going to be doing all these other things. And so what Interview with the Vampire does is the way that they talk about attraction and the way that the characters display attraction and desire for each other is outside of the confines of their body and what it looks like. And that is what makes it like the sexiest show on TV, because it's something that even if you're young, you do see hot vampires. But as you get older, you begin to look beyond the layers. And then when you get older again, you know, Eric Bogosian is a 70-something-year-old vampire, and babes, the people want a piece of him. And so it's like they're crafting a show and they're creating an energy that, regardless of age group, you will feel this thing and you will be pulled into the desires with these characters, regardless of how old you are. Are there going to be people that are younger who kind of trivialize these things, yes, but they're young. They're supposed to. We were all fucking stupid when we were in our 20s. Like, hello. So I'm not gonna like bash that, because only time and experience can help you understand what I'm talking about today. But then again, the other side of it, I'm not in my 60s or my 70s, so I can't comprehend, you know, Daniel Malloy, Eric Bogosian's side of that either. So we all like have our points in our lives that we can connect to this, but the writing itself, I feel, is timeless, and everybody can feel desired, and they can desire based on the language in the text, regardless of the actors delivering these lines, if that makes any sense. So yeah, like, I don't know, I think my thoughts on that just like expanded. So yeah. Next, gender roles. So this kind of ties in with Louis' relationship with intimacy. But I said in that video that gender roles within a sexual experience, I don't think that they apply. And I'm doubling down on this, especially when it comes to like vampires portraying this. Why are we still being like, well, I'm the man, or I'm the masculine one, I'm the feminine one, I'm the top, you're the bottom, no, I'm the top, no, you're the, like, no, it doesn't exist. First off, regardless of sexual orientation, gender, whatever, it's sex. The act of sex is gratification, feeling good, orgasm. How you get there should not be scripted and should not have an identity. Outside of age and consent, what gets you off shouldn't be masked or hidden behind, you know, I wear the pants and I wear the skirt, or, you know, well, I dress more feminine, so I should be like the pillow princess. Like, what are we doing? It's sex. I want to feel good. It just is what it is. And in the first 2 seasons, again, going back to Louis, and specifically Louis' relationship with Armand, this getting me on a whole other tangent with Armand that I didn't want to talk about, but when you think about Armand's turning, and okay, so in the book, he was groomed by Marius, but Marius still waited until a certain age before he gave him the dark gift. So with this Armand, who's in his 30s, he still was groomed. But now, instead of those few years and then now being trapped in like an 18-year-old or whatever, he was groomed for like a decade plus. And then he has this thing. So his relationship with being like maitre, and I know I said that wrong, I'm sorry, French people, oh my God, I'm working on it. But with being like master, but then taking a position of subservience with Louis, because he knew that Louis needed to feel powerful, even though internally Louis knew that he was grasping at straws and that the gig was going to be up. So like their whole dynamic of Armand pretending to give up power, for Louis pretending to have the power, when in reality it was the other way around. And then sexually, it being condensed to bending you over face down in the coffin, all of the BDSM stuff in the room, like it was just whittled down to I'm the man and you're like less than within a relationship. I know somebody like, don't argue with me, just help me explain what I'm trying to say, because you know what I'm trying to say. But specifically within theirs, it definitely showed up in Louis and Lestat's relationship when Grace was like, oh, what did she call him? It was the scene, no, when she said your white daddy. And Louis took such offense to that. And it's like, well, you like being taken care of. And as the oldest with all of this responsibility and your parents still don't fucking like you and all of these other things, like, you deserve being taken care of. But the moment she said that, I don't even know so much of that he was white. I don't think Louis really cared about him being white. I think Louis cared about being taken care of like a woman. I think it was rooted in sexism more than it was rooted in any type of racism or, you know, slavery and just race relations within America. I'm not saying that those didn't play a part, but I think when she said that, it hit him more with the softness, because almost soon after, he just was mean and wallowing and getting depressed and all of these different things. And so that dynamic, you know, Lestat's like, I've been whining and dining you for months. Now all of a sudden, what? What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And so where it didn't matter in his relationship with Lestat, it was twisted in his relationship with Armand. But at the end of the day, babes, do you want to come or not? I'm just saying. And lastly, I talked about how there was vulnerability in monstrosity, and yes, I would say that I still feel that way. I specifically brought up this point during the wedding scene where Lestat showed who he was. He destroyed those priests, presented himself to Louis, and was like, this is who I am, and I love you, and I just hope that you love me back. And Louis said yes. And then Lestat retracted his fangs to give him the gentlest, sweetest bite as they basically was exchanging vows in that moment. And it's easy to look at the monster and be like, oh, you're just cold, you're just evil, you're just whatever. But again, going back to Armand and learning more about his story, when they are monsters, for vampires specifically, that's when they're their real selves. They're actually the most vulnerable when they expose who they are. They are closed off when they're pretending to be human and when they're pretending to be decent and polite and kind and yes sir and no sir, and you're going to business meetings and you're answering emails and you're doing all these other things, when in reality they can rip everybody's fucking heads off, right? So it's like, if you're yourself, and again, going back to Armand, his relationship with Daniel, Marius turned Armand and then just left him because he felt like Armand was evil. And he's just like, ooh, fucked up with that one. That's crazy. And so Armand is internalizing all of this power, the abandonment. He still doesn't really recognize the grooming and the inappropriate relationship as inappropriate. So he continues to do those relationships as he's just living as a vampire. And when we think about his relationship, or the relationship that we know that he ends up having with Daniel, when he was his worst self, when one of his many lies was exposed through this interview, Daniel looked at the monster, looked at this evil being, looked at the person who not only erased Louis' memories, but erased his memories. Looked at this man who has been having a relationship with him for the past like 5 fucking decades and kept wiping his memory, and he still looked at him and said, I see you. You are fucked up and you need therapy. I want you regardless. And that was what Lestat presented to Louis. And so I feel like they're their most vulnerable selves. They're their most honest selves, and they're the most lovable when they're doing arguably some of the most fucked up shit that they can do, because that is the real them. Not our romanticized version, not our fantasized version, not these fucking fics that we're all out here writing, not all the different arguments and stuff that we're seeing on Twitter. They are vampires. They are terrible people. Like Louis said, I've killed thousands of men, fucking them and feeding from them and discarding them like they were nothing. And only Lestat felt like murder. The real them is unabashed, unashamed, and they are destroyers of mankind. And in that is where Louis can say that he loves Lestat, where Daniel can say that he loves Armand, where Armand can say that he loves Daniel, and where Lestat is craving and waiting to see that beast in Louis so he can fall even deeper in love with him. And I'm waiting on that too. Like, all this other stuff is like cute and like all their tears and all their situations, and if you analyze this, that, and the third, yes, sure, great, but they're fucking vampires. Okay? And I'm trying to see them fuck some shit up. Okay? That's why I'm here, ultimately. All the other stuff is pretty, it's prose, you know, we're writing in the key of Franz Kafka, you know, we're writing in the mood of Charlotte Bronte, but at the end of the day, babes, at the end of the day, we're monsters. And that's what we want to see. So that's all I got, y'all. I definitely want to know, like, what views have you had from when you first watched the show, and did they change, or did they stay the same, or did you double down in that thought process? For me, as it says back here, did my views change? My views didn't change, but my understanding of what I watched, and just again reading about these characters and continuing to read about these characters, my mind and my aperture has opened up in a way to receive things that initially like pissed me off and was like grinding my gears. I now have a little bit more knowledge to be like, oh, they did this because they're informed by this thing. Let me sit back and watch. Let me close my mouth and just like see where they go with this. And then also, like, this adaptation is not the books, it's not the movie, it's its own thing. And so it's just really fun. And I find excitement in being wrong. Like, don't be rude about. Like, if you're like, oh, you're wrong, whatever, don't be rude. Like, it is what it is. If y'all see the comments, y'all, I love talking to y'all in these comments. But when I say, like, I love being proven wrong, even with the shows, like, I can be, like, guessing and doing all this other stuff, and the show can do something completely different, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, yes, like, gag me. Because that's the point. The point is just passion and sparking conversation and sparking creativity, and building a community. We're not all gonna like what each other say. We're not gonna all like how we think. But again, we have to remember that we're all different ages and we're receiving this in different stages and experience levels in our lives. So, you know, just remember that, you know, if somebody says something that seems a bit outlandish, they might be 18. Like, and you're just gonna have to remember you were a stupid ass 18-year-old too. Like, it is what it is. Somebody might get way too deep, and then you gotta realize, like, hey, they're 56 and you're not. You're fucking 33. So it just is what it is. But because the characters in the show span so many ages, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Everybody can receive this. And ultimately, I think we all still land on a single thing that we can agree on, and it's that this is one of the greatest fucking shows to ever be created. Period. So there's that, y'all. You already know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Leave comments in the comments box below. I will also be dropping links to different articles that I've done, as well as links to the original video that I am referencing, as well as the Queen of the Damned. If you didn't already see it in like the little info cards or whatever, it'll be in the description box. You can follow me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast, where I post news, film and TV news updates, as well as links to the different articles and stuff and the reviews that I do, that are trailer reviews, movie reviews, episodic recaps and analysis, character reviews, all types of things that I don't sometimes get the time to sit on here and talk to y'all about. You can find me and my articles on www.sothere'sthatpodcast.com. You can also find me on Twitter, the official podcast Twitter page at Pod So There's That, as well as my main Twitter page at Kivanshi. Any updates from me? No. Be on the lookout for a video specifically about Claudia. I'm having a real fun time sitting with the characters individually and just devoting individual time, whether it's an article or a video, to them, because I think they're deserving. And then also, I'm trying to find a way to do like a vinyl listening party of Live from the O2 from Riley Ritchie. I'm doing some research. I don't know if I want to get on here live and just play my record player. I don't know. If y'all have like some recommendations, let me know in the comments. But I love music. And if you find me on Twitter, I love music so much. I listen to music all day, every day. Like, oh my God. Gets me through. And I love Jacob Anderson. Love Riley Ritchie. Yeah. So I'm working on that. And again, Patreon stuff coming out this summer. There's just so many things. I'm doing so many things. I graduate in a few weeks. That's exciting. So I have more time to sit, you know, get back to the grind of these videos. And I launched a marketing, consulting, and digital strategy company as well. So your girl is busy, so busy. But yeah, as things are like more concrete, I will let y'all know. But legit, the Claudia video and the listening party for the vinyl Live from the O2, especially because the Riley Ritchie YouTube page is releasing them like sporadically, and I know like everybody either couldn't afford it or the shipping cost was too much and they couldn't get it. They don't own a record player or whatever. And we love him. And so I'm like, why not listen to the music and just talk about like how these songs make us feel and the first time we heard it, and you know what it makes us think of and how do we feel about it now, and all of these other things. So that's coming soon. And with that, I'm about to take my brew. And you know, I'm gonna get on up out of here, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.